Alright, I want to give my bit on Apple, apps, and users. Now, I'm sure like most of my viewers, I did watch parts of the keynote. It was, for me, I'm sure for others it was quite exciting. It was a bit of what I expected for the iPad to put cameras, beef up hardware and stuff like that. And I'm sure for another 15 million people it'll be a great product. But I don't want to really talk so much on that. Watching the keynote kind of reminded me of some of the old school keynotes when it was Apple versus Microsoft, and it brought some nostalgic memories, especially when I was seeing how much Android was prevalent in this keynote. In the old days, a lot of that was left for the commercials. I don't know if anybody remembers how the commercials would specifically target, like, I guess, more modern ones like Intel and the smoking Intel guy in the suit and stuff like that, and early Mac versus PC commercials and things like that. The keynotes were always kept pretty classy, I would say, unless my memory is failing me in that department. But it got me back to thinking of the old days and how things have changed. And a lot of things, I guess, because I do get PM saying, "Wow, Mr. Bitcher, you're not as much into Apple and things as you once were." And I'll say I'm very much the same Apple user, but yeah, hey, things change, demographics change, and users change, certainly. I remember the old days of the old Mac users. Yeah, you would go to these old little swap meets and things like that, and there wasn't an Apple user who wasn't an uber geek that I didn't know. I mean, you could ask an old school Apple user just about anything about a computer or the Apple operating system, they'd fire it off. Now, you're in line waiting for an Apple product or so. Conversations are more or less, what's the next song going to be on, or what movie's going to be on, this and that. Yeah, certainly times have changed, things have changed, consumers have changed. I'll add one more to that. I had a conversation, and the discussion was some of the how the hardware has changed. And yeah, I don't like a lot of newer things that come out from Apple. It reminds me of the older days. I don't know if any of you guys know what eWorld was, or Cyberdog versus Mobile Me. The creativity and way ahead of its time for eWorld and Cyberdog versus Mobile Me, I get kind of saddened by that. And it's probably, you guys have to understand my context and where I'm coming from when I do talk about Mobile Me in negative terms. OS 9, when I'm talking about customization, does anybody remember Lime Sharp or Quantum Foam for themes and things like that? There with many other more themes that you had in OS 9 versus Aqua's Graphite and Blue. What about the good old days where we had the number pad, but even older days where the power button was on the keyboard? That was pretty slick. It's to the point where I don't even really use any keyboard or mouse from Apple in I don't know, whenever they change it to the shorter little GIMP in the Magic Mouse. I mean, it's even to the point where I'd rather use the mouse puck versus the Magic Mouse. But nonetheless, everybody knows the kind of mice I use, and give a plug to Razer. And maybe it's just the little things. The bong chime that used to go through speakers, no more. And even more subtler, no more Apple logo on the command key. Maybe I'm too nostalgic. Anyway, obviously I do think that Apple does have concern with Android, and I know all the Apple defenders will go, "Oh my gosh, there's nothing to worry about." Well, that's not necessarily true. In the last quarter, Android I think, represents 25% of the market share. And I'm not here to say, hey, Apple's going to go to zero, or I think Acer made a comment that Apple's going to go to 20% market share. I think things are going to balance themselves out. But what I won't like seeing is some of the, I guess, ridiculous defenses and contradictions that usually have come within more recent years versus where the old days the technology really spoke for itself. Now it's, well, Apple's king and it's always going to stay king and blah 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 blah, and it's so wonderful this and that, and then once market share is removed, then the argument reverts back to kind of like the, oh well, but we're still better type thing. I don't know. For me, it's like you can't have it both ways. Technology is what it is, and consumers are what they are, in the end. But yes, Android's going to make a footprint, love it or hate it. I hope to see HP's WebOS make a pretty good sizable dent. I really like what I see with WebOS, but the more competition, the better, right? Also in line with those arguments, and you'll hear users say, well, Android fanboys say the same thing. There's such a thing as being the better man on things like that. Now I want to talk about apps, because I do read a lot of articles that apps are everything. Apps. Apps and software in general are extremely crucial for any success. But with respect to developers, myself being one, there is an inherent problem that comes when the apps get to be within the hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands. Things get cookie cutter, okay? There's tons of advertisements out there for make an iPhone app and not know how to code. And the same thing, okay, I'm not going to just pick on Apple, it exists for Android as well. I don't even know if the 80-20 rule exists for that. In other words, 80% is, you could just talk as garbage, and 20 is maybe valid and productive for you. But it is an inherent thing where if you're that size, let's just drop the app argument. I mean, I don't care if I have 50 flavors of a Twitter client or a pet rock app or what have you. It's kind of like spending an exorbitant amount of money on cable TV and all you do is flip the channels and you don't get any meat from it. Now, maybe that's the type of person you are, and that's cool. But for me, I have a certain amount of money that I expect a certain return, and flipping channels and then surfing hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of apps ain't gonna cut it. I'm looking for something that's gonna satisfy my productive needs. Now, and let's say GarageBand. Yeah, I call that fluffy for me. It's not productive for me, but it is very productive for other people. I'm sure musicians are out there, people in the sound that would probably use the iPad to assist their production, their way of life, and getting them and maybe making it easier for them to do what they do. So certainly productivity is something subjective. But I'm not going to buy it. I'm tired of hearing, oh, goodness gracious, look at all these apps. No. And pretty soon the complaints are going to be that it's going to get to the point where big players want to pay even more to get higher ranking and get their apps better known, and then there's going to be a debate about that too. That's coming on every app market. Even WebOS, which I don't know, was it 10,000 apps? Maybe not even that much, probably less. Every market is going to experience that, not just Apple. Just Apple's the largest, and Android is not too far behind. We buy a product. Usually, if it's a luxury product, it's something different. I mean, you're going to just lay down cash for something, and if it's luxury, I guess it just sits, you're not as in tune with it. It may just sit there for a few days. You're not concerned with it, and so, okay, more power to you. But usually, there's going to be a certain use, whether you're a student and you're using the electronic books to help you with school, that's a form of professionalism. You're a pro user in that, or business in the sense that because you're being productive. And I had a discussion briefly about what is an average user and what is a pro user. Well, every one of us is both an average and pro user. Let's just put it that way. But luxury apps in the addressing of something luxurious should take a backseat to something that would be productive. And I think that debate has come and gone in terms of Well, in terms of that, business has bled into our home lives. Microsoft made a very clear point of that. It shines through in most ecosystems that I've seen and people that I've worked with. It's always, well, I can't quite do this with my work, or I'm buying a computer. Well, is it compatible with this one program that I have at work? So on and so forth. It's just rampant, and it's always a successful thing, and that's why business is sought after. If you win the day with business, the consumption side of it usually really will follow. Now, if it's a luxury item or very target-specific items like MP3 players, DVRs, maybe in like an Apple TV type box, or even it could be an iPad or even a Mac. If you consider that something that's superfluous to your everyday use, and you have the dough to lay down, then it's going to happen. You're going to have both worlds of it. But most people that I see, it's either or if there is the chance that they got excited and bought a product and then go, oh darn, it doesn't quite do what I want it to do, and then it becomes an acceptable loss to that person. It's not going to be for everybody. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Apple also understands the importance of getting to business and using that model of business and then bleeding into the home. Joint venture, which is just released, and I've been reading about that. You guys should check it out. It's on the Apple retail stores. Apple's making a big play, and it's not just for enterprise. There's a lot of room in between small business and then different levels of business sizes before you hit what you would call enterprise. And it was something that I enjoyed in the iPad movie. The credit card readers, the little guy, he took it in the store and swiped. Things like that are terribly cool. And you can have a product like the iPad be more than one thing for you in something like that in a small business. It's maybe does your inventory system. It's your cash register. It's your showcase. What have you? It's your medium even for publishing out things like that. So I'm saying that be careful when you say what is an average user or what you consider the average market versus, because the majority of us really are pro users versus what I would consider an average user as something superfluous or something luxurious. If whether you're a student or you're just starting out in maybe a career path or an entrepreneur, that you look for things that can maybe save you money, and maybe that's something that you can consolidate and put on one device versus multiple, and so on and so forth. But I will stress it that pleasing business and using that strategy to bleed into the home is very successful. It's, I think, an over and done with debate, and it's something that Apple is even addressing themselves. As far as considering, I was asked, well, Apple is more of a consumer product. I don't agree with that. I think that Apple does go out of its way, like in tapping into Exchange and making security features for enterprise and rapid publication over multiple devices and things like that. That's obviously not a consumption device. They are definitely making a service out of it. That's kind of like making a bogus argument of saying, well, I have a desktop computer. My desktop computer is hardware, but depending on the software I put on it dictates really what product it is. Does it not? So, no, I think Apple is very much addressing the business side. I consider it one of the most critical things strategically in the tech industry, period. So that's what I really wanted to give out on this video. I wanted to also say that I am going to be using my other channel. It's the MrBit10.lib. It's my library channel. I want to really separate hardcore tech definition videos and things, because I'm being asked to do all kinds of things now. People want my opinions on things I really didn't do videos on before. I would usually just stick to, here's the technology, here's what it does, ABC definition, have a nice day. Now I'm being asked to get more into just subjective opinion and things like that. So I'm probably going to be doing videos like my Windows registry videos and getting into multiprocessing and things like that on my library channel. And I don't know quite where I'll place all the videos, but if you don't want to miss those videos, which I know a lot of you want to get the hardcore tech, I suggest you subscribe to my .lib channel, and you can find it on my homepage. It's one of the recommended channels at the bottom. And, go for it. You'll start seeing some of my older school type videos on there where I'm ABC definition technology, of which I know I'm repeating myself on that channel, and you'll get that there. I'm beginning to start using Twitter, and probably more than need be, and can be considered a spam user for some of my followers, because if you are a person that likes to read about my opinions and just viewpoints on things, or have a lot of the technical definitions, I can get into a non-stop blitzkrieg of posts on Twitter. And if you want to sort through it, it's fine. Sometimes I'll just blurt out something that I'll forget and not make a video on Twitter, and maybe you can use, hey, you posted something there that I have some interest in, make a video on it. But anyway, I think this video is going long enough. Thanks for watching.